Okay, we are done with two of the biggest things in programming: the conditional statements and the loops. You are almost there, few more steps to master the basic concepts. Let's continue. Have you seen an egg storage tray, the one shown in the picture above? The only purpose of the tray is to store eggs systematically without breaking them. It has compartments to store multiple eggs at the same time. So, one tray for multiple eggs, instead of having one for each, which sounds weird, right? Similarly, what we have is a class full of students, almost 40 of them. And we need to store their names in the computer using Java. You definitely know how to do that. Create 40 string variables with name1, name2, till name 40 and start storing values in them. The above technique seems to be an obvious solution for this problem, but is there a better alternative? Wish we had a tray like an egg tray, one tray to store multiple things of the same type. Like one storage place which can store multiple values, of the same type, in a sequence, like a queue. You know what? We have one such feature in programming. Yes, you heard that right, it's called an array. It seems interesting, let's explore it. An array is a special form of storage, which stores multiple values of the same type. The values are stored one after the other, like a queue, or a stack. And we can access these values by using an index, starting with 0. So the first value entered goes to the 0th position, next to the first position and so on. So, let's see how do we create one. For creating an array we need the following things. Type of values it will store. Name of the array. Maximum number of values it will store a range. Say, you need to create an array for storing numbers, and it can store up to 10 values. The command will be as follows. Here. The first element, as with variables, is the type used. Followed by the name of the array. Followed by a pair of square brackets. This is important because it distinguishes arrays from simple variables. An equal sign. Again a type of data. Again a type of data. And finally, the max size enclosed in open close square brackets. The semicolon at the end, as always. You know what, we can even break the previous code into two statements. Something like this. This is to separate the creation, also called declaration, and setting the limit initialization, which is used in some cases. The declaration step tells the machine that we will use a variable, but not at that moment. Initialization takes a declared variable and associates some value to it. Now that you know how to declare and initialize an array, let's check how to store values in it. As we have already discussed, array values are stored starting from index 0. So, if you want to store a value at the first place in the array, the command will look something like this. We are taking the array called numberArray, and put it the value 100 at position 0. Indexing is done inside square brackets. Similarly, if you want to add another value at a different index. So, you can keep on adding values to the various positions in the array, but you need to remember not to exit the maximum elements number. And if you exceed that, the computer has no place for your extra member, and it will refuse to follow instructions which you gave. In programming, we call this as an error, which happens whenever we do something wrong. Now that you have created an array and started storing values into it, next thing that you need to learn is how to access those values. Here you will face two scenarios. Accessing single member. Accessing multiple members. Let's see how to do that individually. Accessing single member is quite straightforward. Similarly to when you store values, for accessing you use the index of the element you want to access, enclosed in square brackets. The above command will give us the value stored in the fifth place of the array and store it in a new variable num, Keep in mind that indexes start from 0. So to get the count of total values stored in the above array, you will write. Here number array is the name of the array, and the length is the command to get the length, and dot is used to separate them both. You must be wondering, why have we discussed the length command, when we were about to see how to access multiple values of the array? 2 reasons. Good to know. Because you can't really access multiple values in an array, but you can use a loop and get each one individually. Want to know how? Let's check. We make use of for loop to access multiple values of an array. Let's say you need to print all the values in the array. For that, we start with the first element in the array and go on till the last element in the array. And we use a for loop to go from 0 to the last element. Let's check the code. Great. So we have learned how to work with arrays in this chapter. An array stores multiple values of same type. This is how we create it: int number array equals new int 10. This is how we add values to it: number array 0 equals 100. Accessing single element, int num equals number array 4. Accessing multiple elements, for int I equals 0, I less than number array dot length, I plus plus system dot out dot println number array I.
If you've ever seen an egg tray, it's used to store eggs systematically without breaking them. One egg tray is used to store multiple eggs, instead of having one tray for each egg. In programming, these egg trays are arrays. Arrays are used to store multiple values in a single variable, instead of making new variables for each value. In an array, we can store multiple values of the same types, such as integers or words. We can also access each value by its unique position. This unique position is called index. The index always starts from 0, so the value at index 0 is the value in first position. Let's look at examples on how to create an array. Here we have declared an array with integer type and names as number array. The next step is to initialize an array, where we have defined the size on an array. This program will create an array named number array and store a total of 10 elements. This program helps us to store values in an array. Here, 1 is stored in index 0 of number array, 2 is stored in index 1 of number array, and the last value, which is 10, is stored in index 9. After storing values in an array, we can access these values with this program. This program will give us the values stored in the 5th place of an array. This program helps us to get a count of the values stored in an array. Here, number array is the name of the array and length is the command to get the length of the array.